just give me 1 second, and
Sure.
we'll share my screen if this works okay.
And I swapped the recording, so this should be YouTube
Oh,
approved
good. So
video.
I'm gonna increase the size of things. Can everyone see that okay?
I can see it
This
great.
is my terminal window. If I have tilt up right now, what will happen, I think, it might be, I've noticed that Zoom uses up a lot of CPU. And nothing is happening. That's very interesting. I wonder why it's not connecting. Oh, there it's connected. So this is what you get when you tilt up right now. It says space to open the browser, S to streamline, H to open terminal HUD, controls to exit, and also gives you the flags if you want to skip this prompt. Yeah, it's a much easier, just a menu of options that you have to run tilt in. If I hit, this is the new thing, if I hit H, it will say, hey, we're removing this key shortcut. You should just use the flag before bringing up the HUD. That's it. Oh, interesting. There's some sort of errors happening with my Kubernetes server. And that's the demo. I suspect what's happening is that Kubernetes is very slow when Zoom is running. Does anyone have questions?
Yeah. So we used to automatically open the browser and now we don't.
We no longer automatically open the browser. We just say it started on that URL and you can hit space to open it.
What's the rationale for not doing it by default?
It just seemed like people didn't like it. It's easy enough to hit space. That was basically it. We'll see. I think we'll end up seeing what people do. We're tracking all the kind of cues that people use in this mode and see what mode they switch. And I think that will help illuminate where we should go from here.
One thing is that on some platforms, the web page doesn't open automatically. So one reason I like this is because if you press space and the page doesn't open, you know what went wrong. And if everything is just supposed to work and then it doesn't, then you're left having to troubleshoot. So I prefer this.
Yeah, and I personally just end up opening like 3 or 4 tabs because I'm really impatient in the old version. So I like the control. But yeah, like as Nick said, we're getting data from those key clicks. So yeah, and so far I haven't seen anybody on Slack say like anything negative. So happy about that. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, Dan, do you want to demo something or just chat about it first, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, if you or Matt can bring up cloud.tilt.dev/snapshots.
I can do that.
This is the bit of work that started where people would complain that they can't send, that their snapshots would fail. And the reason that they would fail is because they were too big. And so there's a couple different solutions that we could have gone with, but in the end we decided to just move snapshots off of Firestore and store them in SQL, because ultimately it was a Firestore limitation based on how we were using Firestore that caused the size error. So now you can make really big snapshots, and all of these snapshots that you see here are queried out of SQL. And a cool benefit that I didn't intend, but is great, is this page is actually way faster now. I didn't quantify exactly how much faster, but our little spinny friend does not stay for nearly as long, which is awesome.
Great. Where is like the API call is in, what's that? Is that Datadog where I can look at that if I wanted to, the timing?
Yeah, I think that should be in Datadog, actually. That's a good point. Oh, and one other note, in doing this, since it seemed like we don't super care about old snapshots, we decided to drop any snapshot that isn't serializable with the protobuf. So that resulted in like 800 snapshots being dropped, like 600 of which were Matt or mine, and like 700 of which were Tilt employees. And that was from like last summer. So anyone complains about that, we can rescue them. The data is still there. We just decided to punt on that for now.
Super, thank you, Dan. One just question more for curiosity's sake.
Yeah.
Why did we do Firestore before, and why are we doing SQL now? Like, is there any technical reason why, like, now we should do, like what changed from like, like that type?
Yeah.
perspective?
So back last summer, I remember Han and I thought that a lot of the Tilt Cloud stuff was going to be very interactive and very like multiplayer. Like we were talking a lot about multiplayer mode and how you'd be like sharing stuff with people in real time and collaborating and seeing what people are editing. And Firestore seemed really good for that because you could get the like multicast stuff for free. But then we didn't end up doing any of that stuff. And the snapshots was the only thing that Firestore was used for, and everything else was in Postgres.
Right.
So we just decided to put everything in Postgres.
Cool. It definitely makes my life easier as I'm like looking at metrics and stuff. So welcome.
Oh
change
yeah,
for
and
me.
you can, one other cool side effect is you can query into the snapshot with the fancy Postgres JSON support. So you could even run a
Right.
query like, find me all the snapshots that had more than 10 resources in it.
Yeah,
Which
like
I haven't
using
tried, but I think
the dash arrow syntax, right? Like
yes.
we do that for Jupyter, and like I've seen Matt share queries with me. It's like super helpful. Thanks for
I
letting
have
me
a bug
know.
report that I just found. All the documentation uses old snapshots that were not migrated and are now horrible.
I
I'm
think
working
Matt
on that
wrote-
right now.
Okay.
Working on that, Nick. We're sharing this with the customer. Well, not this specifically, the private stuff, private team snapshot stuff. So I within 2 hours, I will have that docs page updated. So yeah, and I have a spiffy new public snapshot to link to. Cool. Any other questions or comments for Dan? And again, yeah, let's just come back next week to talk about the feature that Matt is DRIing. So we have content for next week. So I will stop sharing, or actually